Do you remember the sound of a dead channel? Before digital screens took over, televisions would play a chaotic hiss of black and white snow when there was no signal. We call it static. We think of it as noise, but buried in that hiss is a secret. About 1% of that static is not coming from the TV station. It is not coming from Earth, and it is not coming from the sun. It is woke cosmic microwave background Shukian radiation. It is the afterglow of the initial explosion that created reality. When you watch that snow, you are watching the ghost of the Big Bang, still vibrating in your living room 13.8 billion years later. We use the name the Big Bang with reverence today, but originally it was an insult. In the 1940s, the idea that the universe had a birthday was controversial. Many scientists, including the brilliant Fred Hoyle, believed the universe was eternal. It had no beginning and no end. They called it the steady state theory. During a radio interview, Hoyle tried to mock the competing idea. He laughed and said, "So you think the universe just appeared in a Big Bang?" He meant it as a joke. He meant to make it sound ridiculous, but the name stuck. And unfortunately for Hoyle, the theory was right. How do we know it happened? We simply run the tape backward. In the last episode, we learned that the universe is expanding. Every galaxy is moving away from every other galaxy. Logic dictates that if they are moving apart today, yesterday they were closer. 1,000,000 years ago, they were touching. If you rewind the clock 13.8 billion years, all the matter, all the energy and all the space in the cosmos crashes together. Everything we see is crushed into a single infinitesimal point. The day without yesterday. We have rewound the tape to time zero. What is here? According to general relativity, the entire universe, billions of galaxies, all the light, all the energy, is crushed into a single point. The singularity. It has zero volume. It has infinite density. Here the laws of physics do not apply. Math returns error codes. Time does not tick. Space does not stretch. It is a seed containing everything that will ever exist. Now we must correct the biggest mistake people make. You are imagining an explosion. You are imagining a fireball expanding into an empty black room. This is wrong. There was no outside reference. There was no room. The singularity was all there was. When it banged, it didn't expand into space. It expanded space itself. Imagine drawing dots on a balloon and then blowing it up. The dots move apart not because they are swimming, but because the rubber between them is stretching. The Big Bang was an explosion of space, not in space. Then at 10 to the power of negative 36 seconds, something snapped. Cosmic inflation. For a fraction of a second, space expanded faster than the speed of light. It wasn't matter moving. It was the grid of reality stretching. The universe went from the size of a proton to the size of a grapefruit in less time than it takes light to cross an atom. This violent stretch smoothed out the wrinkles. It made the universe uniform. It set the stage for the cosmos we see today. But before inflation, there was a moment even deeper in the past. The Planck epoch. This is the first 10 to the power of negative 43 seconds. Here, the universe was so hot and so dense that the four fundamental forces were melted together. Gravity, electromagnetism, and the nuclear forces were a single super force. We have no math to describe this. It is the era of dragons. Physics as we know it hadn't been invented yet. As inflation ended, the universe was still too hot for atoms. You couldn't have hydrogen or helium yet. It was a quark gluon plasma. Think of it as a hot, dense soup. Quarks, the building blocks of protons, were swimming freely in a sea of energy. Every time they tried to bond, they were smashed apart by the heat. The universe was a liquid screaming with radiation. It was alive with energy, but dead to structure. It was waiting to cool down. The universe is expanding. And because it is expanding, it is cooling. Like coffee left on a counter, the heat is dissipating into the growing void. By the time the universe is by 1 second old, it is cool enough for protons and neutrons to form. By about 3 minutes, they start to stick together. This is nucleosynthesis. In this tiny 3-minute window, the universe forged all the hydrogen and helium that exists today. Every atom of hydrogen in the water you drink was born in these first 3 minutes. The ingredients for the stars were cooked before the coffee got cold. But even though we have atoms, we don't have light. Not really. The universe was a trap. For the next 380,000 years, the cosmos was a thick, hot fog. It was filled with loose electrons. Light particles, photons, tried to travel, but they couldn't get far. They kept crashing into electrons, bouncing around like pinballs in a crowded machine. If you had been there, you wouldn't have seen stars. You would have seen a blinding, glowing white wall in every direction. The universe was opaque. It was keeping its secrets. Then at the 380,000-year mark, a miracle happened. The temperature dropped to south 3,000 degrees Kelvin. This was cool enough for the electrons to slow down. The atomic nuclei positive charges finally captured the wild electrons' negative charges. They formed the first stable neutral atoms. We call this moment recombination. With the electrons locked away in orbits, the path was clear. The fog lifted. For the first time in history, light could travel in a straight line. Billions of trillions of photons were released at once. They rushed out into the void, carrying the image of the baby universe with them. That light is still traveling today. It hasn't stopped. It is washing over us right now. It is the echo of the moment the universe opened its eyes. So if the universe was filled with blinding white light, why is the night sky black? Where did the fire go? It didn't disappear. It stretched. As space expanded over billions of years, it pulled the light waves with it. The wavelengths got longer and longer. They went from visible light to infrared and finally to microwaves. The fire is still there, but it has cooled down. It is no longer a blinding flash. It is a faint, cold whisper. In 1964, 2 astronomers named Penzias and Wilson built a radio antenna. They kept hearing a hum, a background noise they couldn't get rid of. They thought it was pigeon poop on the antenna. They cleaned it, but the hum remained. They had accidentally discovered the cosmic microwave background, CMB. This map is the oldest light in the universe. It is a picture of the cosmos when it was just 380,000 years old. When you look at this map, you are looking at the fingerprint of creation. It is the wall of fire cooled down to just 2.7 degrees above absolute zero. But look closely at the map. It isn't perfectly smooth. It is speckled. There are tiny blue spots cooler and tiny orange spots warmer. These are quantum fluctuations, tiny ripples in the density of the early soup. These imperfections are the most important thing in history. If the universe had been perfectly smooth, gravity would have pulled evenly in all directions. Nothing would have formed. But because of these tiny flaws, gravity had a place to grab. Matter clumped together in the orange spots. These clumps became the first galaxies. We are the children of a glitch. After the flash released the CMB, the visible lights went out. The universe entered the cosmic dark ages. For 100 million years, there were no stars, no suns, no galaxies, just vast clouds of hydrogen and helium drifting in the dark. It was a time of waiting. Gravity was slowly pulling the gas together in the dark building pressure. Then the pressure became too great. In the hearts of the densest clouds, nuclear fusion ignited. The cosmic dawn. The first stars, massive monsters 100 times bigger than our sun, burst into life. They ended the dark ages. They began the era of light chemistry and eventually, life. We have reached the beginning. But the human mind hates a beginning. It naturally asks, what happened before the Big Bang? Stephen Hawking gave the best answer. He said asking what happened before time began is like asking what is north of the North Pole. There is nothing north of the North Pole, not because it is empty, but because the definition of north ends there. In the same way, time ends at the Big Bang. There was no yesterday. There was no before. The question itself, Namash, is a broken compass, unless we are wrong. Some physicists like Roger Penrose suggest a cyclic universe, the Big Bounce. Perhaps the Big Bang was not the beginning of everything. It was just the beginning of this cycle. Maybe our universe is just one breath in an eternal lung. Expand, contract, expand, contract. If this is true, there were infinite universes before us, and there will be infinite universes after us. We are just living in our momentary slice of eternity. Whether it was a bounce or a beginning, one thing is certain. The Big Bang didn't happen. It is still happening. The expansion of space is the explosion continuing. The static on your TV is the echo of the blast, and the atoms in your hand, they are the shrapnel. We are not separate from the universe. We are the cooled down ash of the initial fire, which has woken up and learned to think. The fire is still burning. We are the flame.